All right. All right. We are so happy to be here this afternoon. It's been a while since we would met here in this space, but we are so super excited to welcome all of you back to this really cool moment. And this moment is a moment where we are launching something that is awesome and new and cool to our community, which is Our.MINDS series. So we are transitioning from in mind to Our Minds. And the really cool thing about Our Minds is that we have students, we have our learners as the protagonists. And all of our In Mind series will be hosted by someone super special that we have here with us. And I'm going to hand over the voice to her. But Julia Montenegro is our special host, and she will be bringing the voice of all of our learners into our community. And that will be so awesome. And today she gets to start with a special guest, or a few special guests that we've invited to talk to us. But I'm going to let her tell you the story, and I don't want to do any more spoilers. So Julia, it's off to you.
Hello, everyone. As she told you, I'm Julia, and I'm so excited and thankful to be here with you guys today and to have so much fun during this new series. So as Priscilla said, we're here with some special guests. We have Scott, who is going to be the interviewee. So we're going to start off by introducing ourselves. So Tales, do you want to say your first and last name?
Yeah, I am Tales, and I stood in grade 1C and concept.
Great. Can't believe that we have so many cool guests here today. We have a grade 1 learner with us, Tales, as he just said. And so, Gabriel, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello, everyone. I'm Gabriel. I'm from grade 4A there at Escola Concept. And I hope you enjoyed this live.
So now I'm going to let our very special guest, Scott, introduce himself.
Hi, everyone. I'm the new associate head of school at Escola Concept. It's so exciting to be here. And I'm really looking forward to this interview, and especially since this is the first episode of Our Minds. So thank you.
All right, so we're just going to get right into the questions. We have some really interesting questions for Scott to answer. So the first question is actually going to be Tales. So Tales, do you want to say your first question?
Yeah. What is your favorite country? Canada, Korea, or Brazil?
Wow, Tales, that is a really good question. Wow. My favorite country. So I was born in Canada, and I've been fortunate enough to live in many different countries. But I would probably say that my favorite country to live in is Brazil. And the reason why I say Brazil is, the reason why, Tales, is because I made a decision. I first traveled to Brazil in 1999, and it was just traveling. I was with my brother and another friend, and we fell in love with the country. The country was so beautiful. It was a new language. It had, growing up in Canada, Canada is a very cold country in the wintertime. And it was something where I really wanted to just get away from the cold weather. And so that first trip to Brazil, it was lovely. The beaches, like I said, the food, I'm in love with Brazilian food. So even though I'm Canadian and I have lots of family still in Canada, lots of family and friends that I miss, obviously, but I really love Brazil. And also too, I was fortunate. I worked in South Korea for 3 years, and it was a great experience. South Korea was the first time. I had never visited South Korea. My family and I, we took a very responsible risk. We moved to Korea in 2017, and it was a wonderful experience. I think the thing that I will always remember most about Korea is the people. Even though I don't speak Korean and communication was difficult, the people are just very friendly as well, but it's also just very safe. It's a very safe country. I've got a 7-year-old son. He would go down to the park and play. We could watch him from our window, and it was just very safe. But I think with everything, if I consider everything, many years ago, I made a decision and I recognized and I fell in love with Brazil. So I would definitely say that, for those reasons I said earlier, Brazil is probably my favorite country to live in, definitely.
All right. So the second question is more focused on the education aspect. And the question is, what are some similarities and differences between the education systems in Brazil, Canada, and Korea?
Wow. Julia, that's an excellent question. Some of the similarities and differences. I think if I think about that, Canada and Korea have some similarities. I think the majority of schools in Canada and Korea are public schools, which is, I guess, a little bit different. You'll have a lot of public schools in Brazil, but because of a need, there's also a lot of private schools in Brazil, where maybe a difference between Canada and Korea is there are private schools. I worked at an international school in Korea, but I think that the majority of the schools in Korea and Canada are public schools. And I think here in Brazil, I've been fortunate enough to work at a few different schools. But I think one of the things that I'm really excited about, and one of the reasons, I'll be honest, it might sound very selfish for moving to São Paulo and moving to Escola Concept, but the decision was made also as a parent, right? Looking at the whole pedagogical project that Concept offers, it was a school that I made an early decision that I said, I want my son to study at that school. And so my son is 7 years old. My wife is Brazilian. And it was just a decision that I said, very selfish, but it was something that I wanted for my son. I wanted my son to study at Escola Concept.
Okay, that's a very, interesting question, and also you have a very interesting answer. So, Gabriel, would you like to,
Sure. My question is between difficulty to teach and everything about this. What is your favorite country to teach between Korea, Brazil, and Canada?
Okay. I think if I have my Canadian family and my friends are watching this, they're probably going to get upset with me because at some point I have to say Canada, but I honestly feel that teaching, and so I never got to teach in Korea. In Korea, I was the school principal. So I never taught in Korea. I did also teach, so I've taught in Canada, I've taught in Colombia, I've taught in Brazil. Where's my favorite teaching? I will honestly saying too, I think from looking at the students, and again, I've been in some very, very good schools, looking at the students and looking at the learners, one of the things that I recognized when I taught outside of Brazil was just how much I actually missed the Brazilian student or the Brazilian learner. I think it's something about the spirit. It's something about it talks about the people of Brazil, right? I think just how connections can be made. And so I honestly felt that the connections with the Brazilian students would be probably the reason why I've enjoyed so much when I used to teach in Brazil and so much working in education with Brazilian students. And it was something that I think I recognized early on when I used to teach, when I first started teaching high school in Canada. My high school, we had an exchange program with students from Brazil. And we probably had a group of about 5 or 6 Brazilian students. And at this point, I had already been to Brazil. My mind was already made up that eventually I was going to move to Brazil. I didn't know exactly when. I needed to get my teaching experience in Canada, but I knew that I was eventually going to move to Brazil. And I had this love for Brazil, everything Brazilian food, Brazilian music, didn't speak any Portuguese at that time. And it was something that was interesting. So I had all of a sudden now 5 Brazilian students in my school, in my high school. And so they quickly realized my love for Brazil. And it was something where at lunchtime, I would have those students in my office and we'd be sharing stories. They'd be telling me football stories, trying to get me to cheer for their favorite team because they were from all over Brazil. And so it was early on that I realized that just the difference and just the relationships that Brazilian students have with their teachers, where maybe if I think about relationships between students and teachers in Canada and even in Korea as well, I think something that I don't want to say it's a little bit more cold, but it's less personal. And so I think there's a really cool relationship and you get to know your students a lot more. And so I think with the Brazilian students, that's something that I've always enjoyed. And I think also too, when I've been outside of Brazil working in schools, I've missed that connection with the Brazilian students. So again, I think Brazil wins again. I think teaching in Brazil is, it's not any surprise why I keep finding myself in Brazil, come back, teach for a little bit, leave for a little bit, and then come back to Brazil. So again, Brazil is my answer.
That is so cool that it's kind of hard sometimes to realize how much a relationship between a professor or a principal and a student or a learner makes so much of a difference in, the teaching experience and, just overall their time in school. So we've been getting more and more specific with our questions. And now I was wondering, what is your favorite subject and grade level to teach?
Okay. Favorite subject and grade level. Before I answer that, I think I have to share a story because this reminded me of a story. So when I was in university, I was in the faculty of physical education. And so my goal was I was going to be a physical education teacher. And in the faculty, I also had taken a lot of science classes and I was also very interested in science. And so I remember being in the classes though, and I had one of our friends, other students with me, colleagues in the university students in the course. And I remember saying to these other students, friends of mine, I said, I'm going to be a high school teacher. First off, I said, I'm going to be a physical education teacher. I said, I don't know if I'm going to teach science, but I'm going to be a physical education teacher and I'm going to teach high school. I said, I'll teach lower school, but I really want to teach high school physical education. And I think the reason for that was probably because of coaching and what got me involved into education. But I said three things. I said, I'm not going to teach science. I said, I only want to teach high school or elementary school, basically meaning I don't want to teach middle school. And I graduated, started teaching high school physical education. That's what I said I was going to do. I started doing it. I moved to Brazil and with opportunities, I started, guess where? I started teaching middle school science. So I started teaching, my international teaching career was middle school science. That led me to Colombia teaching middle school science. When I moved from Colombia back to Brazil, to São Paulo this time now, and I was the head of middle school, I was, again, now in middle school. So basically the things that I said I wouldn't do is the things that I did and what happened. And I look back now, and so this is, me saying this was 20 years ago, maybe more. And I look back to that now and I wouldn't change a thing. I wouldn't have said that obviously, but I wouldn't change a thing because my experience of teaching middle school science was absolutely amazing. And I wouldn't change it for anything. So I guess to answer your question, definitely for the grade level, I would probably say middle school. I think it's a fascinating grade level. I really connect with that age group of students. I recognize and I understand what they're going through. And I think that makes it exciting. I think it makes it where they're not so young anymore, but they're not yet getting close to being adults. So they're going through adolescence, they're becoming teenagers. And I think it's a really exciting age. and you have to understand it. And I think the reason probably for why at the very beginning, my younger self said, I don't want to teach middle school was maybe I was afraid. Maybe I didn't really understand that age group. But I look back now after all those years of experience, and I think that definitely would be it. And I think it would be a cross between, and I'd have no problem teaching science again or physical education, but I definitely would be middle school. I love that age group.
All right, that's a very interesting answer, and I'm very flattered because I am a middle school learner, so go middle school. So, Gabriel, would you like to say your next question?
Yeah. So we know in the Escola Concept is a bilingual school, but besides English, do you think there's another important language besides English to learn?
Wow, you guys aren't holding back. You guys are asking me tough questions. Other languages besides English. I definitely, and I'm going to get to your answer, but I'm going to take maybe a little bit of a detour to get there. I think learning a second language or a third language is very important. There's lots of research that shows about the benefits to your brain of what happens when you learn another language. I'm not going to go into the details, but basically, I think to put it into very easy words is your brain just gets bigger and faster, right? By learning another language. So definitely learning another language is very important. And I think lots of people, when I used to travel when I was younger too, and people would always say, oh, you're fortunate because you grew up in an English speaking country. So English is your first language, and the world speaks English, right? That's the language in common. And so people would always say that, oh, you're so fortunate because you speak English. It's so easy. You're a native English speaker. And I do think that it's obviously an advantage. But then part of me also thinks too, and I think back to, even my family or some of my friends that only speak one language. I think that they miss out on that opportunity to have their brain bigger and go faster by learning another language. So I look at that sometimes we're going, yes, it's easy. We're fortunate to be native English speakers, but I think we also, because then we're not forced, but we don't have that requirement or that need to learn at times a second language. So we actually lose out, I think, monolinguals, people that only speak one language. And so I think it's fantastic that, learners and students who are working on a second language and some of them even a third language. And so it's fantastic. So I guess, and I don't want to avoid your question and sound like a politician here, but what language would be important? I mean, obviously, I think because the world speaks English, I would say that, English, as you recognized already, you say that English, besides English, I think it's going to depend on what you want to use that language for, right? So sometimes learning an extra language can be to communicate with maybe friends or family in a different country. So for another person, that language could be Spanish, right? Maybe it could be French. If there's a need, let's say, for learning another language, where we're seeing now a lot of people are switching over, and Mandarin, right? Mandarin is very important with the business world and everything that's happening. A lot of people are saying, hey, you want to get ahead, you want to get that extra edge, learning Mandarin will definitely help you. So possibly learning Mandarin is another great example. And so I definitely agree with, obviously, the importance of learning English if it's not your first language. But I guess outside of English, I think it's, as a third language, I guess maybe you'd be looking at what are your needs, right? You as a learner, what's going to help you? And again, some of those popular languages that we see out there are Mandarin, Spanish, French, as Italian, as well as other languages. But I guess it depends on the learner and how you're going to use that language that you learn.
Okay, that's a very complete answer. And I guess, you're right. You can't really have a very specific answer for that. It has to be based on what you need. So, Gabriel, would you like to add something and then make your next question?
Yeah. And also, it was very interesting because like it also depends like if you're gonna travel or if you're gonna use it to business. I don't know. But my next question is I know it's a curious question, but what's your passion about education?
Wow. Yeah, my passion, and let me think about another story. My passion in education, and it was something that I didn't recognize right away. I was fortunate, obviously, that I was able to recognize my passion, but you're absolutely right. And I think I probably have two passions. The first passion is education, and I would say the other passion is sports, right? I love sports as well. But going to education, and I think when I was in high school, and so we're going to go back to I won't say it exactly, but let's go back to the early 90s in Canada. And here I am, a young adult, 18 years old. I graduated from high school and I'm on my way to university. And I registered, and I'm now in my first year of university, and I'm taking Faculty of Science, right? I enjoyed science in high school, and I enrolled in the Faculty of Science at the University of Manitoba in Canada. And so I'm taking science. And it was when the high school that I just graduated from was about to start, I received a phone call from the athletic director of the school. And in high school, I played a lot of sports. I played high school volleyball. I was the captain of the high school basketball team. And I received a phone call from the athletic director, and she said, "Scott, we're looking for a high school coach. Would you be interested in coaching basketball?" And so I was 18 years old, and a little bit hesitant, but I said, "Sure, love to. I want to stay active. I want to stay in it." And so I went back to my high school, and I started coaching the freshman team, which was 16, year old students. And so here I am, 18. I'm only 2-3 years older than these kids. And I started coaching them in basketball and going to university as well. And maybe recognizing that like I was probably spending more time planning my lessons, my basketball lessons, the practices, than maybe I was studying in university. And my sister, I have a stepsister who was a teacher and a school principal, and she's now retired, but she was at that point, she was a principal, and she said to me, and we would have lots of conversations, but she recognized something, and she saw all the time that I was spending in creating my lessons and planning for my practices. And she said, "Have you thought about being a teacher?" And at that point, I honestly never did. I was in the Faculty of Science, and I wasn't even sure what I was going to do, but I wasn't sure. And so when my sister told me and talked to me about that, it was like a light bulb went off. And I said, "Well, can I?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "You could be a teacher. You could be a physical education teacher," which was actually what she was before she became a principal. And so we started talking, and I honestly, the very next day, I was at the university, and I was already looking at, okay, how can I switch faculties and go from the Faculty of Science to move over to the Faculty of Physical Education? And that's what it was. And so I think that's when I recognized my passion. And in that first year, I coached the basketball team, I coached the volleyball team, I started running club programs for volleyball. So it was definitely, I was lucky. I feel very fortunate that I found my passion young enough to make that transition and, find my path and, okay, I'm going to be a teacher. And then as I started teaching, as I started in university, I started traveling. And then I connected, wow, I want to be an international educator. So not only do I want to be a teacher, but I want to be able to teach in different countries. And so I feel super blessed. I feel very fortunate because I've been able to travel quite a bit, live in some really cool, exciting countries while I've been working and teaching. And one of the things that I always recognized is that I never say I'm going to work. I could be on the weekend and I've got school the next day. And I would always say, and my friends made a comment one time when I said, "Oh, I've got school on Monday. I can't go with you," or, they're going out Sunday night, and said, "No, I've got school tomorrow. I can't go." And it was always interesting because I don't see it as work, right? I think when you find your passion, it doesn't become something that's, I don't want to say difficult, but because you enjoy doing it so much, it's fun. And so for me, I've always said, I'm going to school. I don't even see it as being work. I see it as I'm going to school. I'm going to learn. I'm going to, embrace and tackle everything, all the challenges. So I think I feel very fortunate that I found my passion. So I guess to answer your question, that's probably my passion for education.
Okay, so that was, a very interesting answer. And I know that you touched a lot on, from all the questions and all of your answers, we touched a lot on the differences and, how many things make a difference in, your career path. And just like you said, you had no idea that, when you were teaching, your sister was going to come up to you and say, have you ever thought about teaching? And then you're like, bling, it's perfect. So now we have, Tales is going to ask something. But before, I want to ask Tales a question. So Tales, what do you miss most about school? Okay, I think we lost him. He'll be back though. So I'm gonna go ahead and ask my next question while he isn't here. I saw when we were talking earlier that you were really interested in this sport called curling. And I've seen some videos of it, but I just don't understand the dynamics and how it works. So can you explain to me what curling is?
Definitely. Okay, curling. How can I'm going to try to, I've been talking a lot, so let me try to see if I can do it fast. I always say that curling is like chess on ice. Okay. And I think even when I was in the spotlight, I used that quote as well, but it's something that I truly believe in. I think curling is a sport that's played on ice, and the whole goal of the game is to be able, you have these big stones or rocks that they're called curling rocks, and they weigh approximately 20 kilos. And so the whole goal, the objective of the game is for you to slide these rocks down the ice, and at the far end of the ice, there's a target that's on the ice, a target that's painted on the ice, circles. And so your goal is to try to get that rock as close to the center as possible. And if you get your colored rocks closest to the center, you get a point for each rock that is closest. And of course, though, you have the other team. And so what happens is each team has 4 players. And the first person, let's say on team A, they'll throw their rock. And by throw, I mean they slide it. It's not, they don't throw it because it's 20 kilos. They slide it along the ice. And then what happens is the next team, team B, their first player slides and throws their rock. And so there's so much strategy involved because you're trying to put your rock into the circle, getting it close to the target. They're trying to get theirs, and of course they can hit your rock and knock it out. And so there's so much strategy involved that it's you have to really be thinking about, not just your next shot, but their shot and then your next shot. And so you're really thinking 2, 3, 4 steps ahead. And so it's very exciting. And of course, when you talk to Brazilians about it, it's getting very famous and very popular in Brazil. I think around the 2010 Olympics is when it really started becoming popular in Brazil. But of course, Brazilians will recognize the game of, the game on the ice and with the brooms and the brooms that you use to sweep the ice. And so that's how they'll remember the game. And it's very, very, it's a very nice game. It's a very interesting game. And I think one of the things that's so exciting about curling right now too, and coming back to Brazil at this time, is not only am I, for the last 5 years, this is what's really interesting, is that I've been I play on the Brazilian national curling team. So Brazil has a national curling team. All the other players that are on the team with me are Brazilian, born Brazilian, but they live in other countries like Canada and Switzerland. I'm the only one that is not born Brazilian, but because of my residency and because of my status in Brazil, I'm allowed to play for the Brazil national team. So I've been playing on the team for 5 years, and it's been a fantastic experience. And one of the really, really interesting things is that, excuse me, here in São Paulo, they just opened up what's called the Ice Arena. And so now in São Paulo, in Morumbi, down close to Marginal, there's the big Extra supermarket, and there's an ice arena. And it's the first curling rink ever built in Latin America. They've also got a very big skating rink. And so this is something that, as this sport develops, and so what I honestly hope, and I really hope that our Escola Concept students, I hope that they get interested in this sport, because now they can practice the official game on ice here in São Paulo. And so it's something that I really hope we can, because it's so new. It's such a brand new sport for Brazil. And so definitely, I hope that explains a little bit, that you have a better understanding of what curling is, but it's a really, really, truly fantastic sport.
I was watching a while back the Olympics, and there was the curling part of the Olympics, and I was watching it, and it seems really complicated because you see the guys, they're holding, well, I'm not sure what it's called, but they're just swooping back and forth. Yeah, the brooms, and they're just swooping back and forth. I'm like, oh my God, that must hurt their arms, after practice and everything. And you have to be so fast. And as you said, I didn't imagine that you had to be thinking so many steps ahead. So, Gabriel, do you want to add something?
Yeah, sorry to say, but it's a very strange game and very cool to play, I think. And so let's play curling, me against you. Just kidding. No, let's don't.
No, let's do it for sure. When it opens up again, because it's closed right now, they have to melt the ice. But when it gets opened again, definitely. You let me know, and I'll go there and I'll visit you, and we'll be able to go on the ice together for sure, Gabriel.
We'll do that. We'll do that.
Okay, so Scott, this is going back to the education. We were talking about where is your favorite place to teach, what's your favorite subject. So now we want to know, what is your role at Escola Concept? Because we know we read it all in the emails and we see it. When you introduce yourself, you talked about it, but we really want to understand, what is your role at Escola Concept?
Okay, good question. Actually, you know what? Maybe I could have been clearer in my initial intro, but very good question. So, as I said earlier, I'm the associate head of school at Concept in São Paulo. With that, I think I guess the main responsibility for that is co-leadership of the school and collaborating very closely with the academic leadership team. I think bringing a lot of experience of the academic side. And so I would say that those are the two big things right there, would be co-leadership of the school here in São Paulo, and also we're collaborating very closely with the academic leadership team.
Okay, so that explains it better. Now I understand it, I guess. Because before, as I said, we read it in the emails, but we don't really understand, who is the person that they call Scott, and that is the associate head of school. So it's really interesting that we get, and really cool that we get to do this interview with you. So I guess before, unfortunately, he disconnected, we are going to ask Tales a question. So Tales, I want to know, what is the thing you miss most about being at school?
Eu acho que é the skate park.
You like the skate park?
Yeah.
What do you do in the skate park? Do you do parkour?
No.
No? Okay, so Tales, I know you had some questions to ask Scott. Do you want to say them?
Yeah. What is your favorite color?
Oh, I like that. What is my favorite color? My favorite color definitely 100% is blue. I love blue. Talis, what
Why?
is your favorite color?
Blue.
Hey, all right.
Why?
Oh, why do I like blue? I think, I don't know, I like blue. It's a color that I guess I've worn since I was very little. So blue clothes. I like blue because there's many different shades of blue. So even now you might not see, but my shirt is a little bit blue and I've got some blue dots on it. So I think that's probably the reason why. Maybe I love the blue sky. Even though I grew up in a city that was very cold, the sky was very blue. So I really liked, that's probably why I like blue.
Thales, do you want to tell me why you like blue?
I like blue because
Do you like it because the sky is blue?
yes,
What shade of blue do you like? Do you like the sky blue? Or do you like ocean blue, really dark
the sky blue.
sky blue? Okay. And you have another question, Thales. Would you like to ask Scott your next question?
Yeah. What is your favorite sport?
I think we lost Scott a little bit, but Thales, what is your favorite sport?
Soccer.
Soccer. Are you really good at soccer? I think you're really good.
So.
Why do you like soccer so much?
Because the people run.
You like running too? Okay. So do you want to ask Scott your question again?
What is your favorite sport?
Oh, my favorite sport. Yeah, I lost my internet connection. I don't know what happened, but my favorite sport, well, I think now, right now, I would probably say curling is my favorite sport, but it kind of changes. When I was younger, I played baseball when I was younger. I really liked baseball. Then I started curling and I really fell in love with curling. And then when I was in school, in middle school and high school, I started playing a lot of basketball and volleyball. And so I would probably say there was a large moment there where those were definitely my two favorite sports. And even another thing right now that actually moving back to Brazil now, what I find is I'm playing a lot of tennis as well. But if I had to pick one absolute favorite sport, I would have to say that it's curling, definitely.
Okay. Gabriel, do you want to say something? What is your favorite sport? I was wondering that.
I don't really play sports. Like I don't really like sport. Not that I hate sports, but like I'm not I don't know actually. I kind of like swimming because swimming is more you get wet and and what in hot days you get cold and then it's good, you know, like. But I think swimming it's my favorite sport. And it's not really a sport. It's just yeah, it is a sport. So swimming definitely. How about you, Julia?
Well, I don't really have a favorite sport, just like you. I don't really like sports that much. But I do also really enjoy swimming. I think swimming is a lot of fun. But sometimes I like to play soccer with my friends, just like Thales. But I'm not that good. And I imagine Thales is really, really good. So Thales, I have another question for you. Are you reading and writing in English and Portuguese now? Because I heard you are.
As so.
You are? Do you think it's hard?
Yeah.
You do? Do you have a favorite book that you like to read?
No.
You just like all of them? That's fair too. So now I'm going to ask Gabriel a question, Thales, and then I want you to answer as well, and Scott, okay?
Okay.
So Thales, what is your favorite activity to do at home?
Body movement.
You like doing body of movement? I do too. I think it's a lot of fun. Why do you like doing body movement?
I don't know.
You just think it's fun? Me too. I don't really know why either. Gabriel, do you want to tell me what your favorite activity is?
I don't really have a favorite activity. Like every day I do something different. I'm not the person that stays active. Sometimes I play with my cat. Sometimes I play with my iPad. Sometimes I read books. Sometimes I play with my computer. Every time is different. But most of the times I stay in my iPad in my own after class, like just doing random things. I also go to my bed and stay like there 1 hour, not sleeping but thinking about life. And then I just go to play with my cat and I don't know, just random things I do in my home. So there's no really favorite activity.
I guess you just do a little bit of everything then. So Scott, what is your favorite activity to do at home? Because I'm sure you can't curl at home or do curling.
That is actually, I can't here in Brazil, but when I was in South Korea, we had a floor curling kit, and it was for the gymnasium, and you can use it on flat surfaces. And so I actually could. So during quarantine, a little bit on the weekends in South Korea, I would actually curl with my son a little bit. We would play a game down the hallway, and we would throw these rocks that were special made. It's called floor curling. So you can find it online. But anyways, I did a little bit. But here, what I would probably say is what I probably do the most is probably spending time with my son. So my son is 7 years old. And so whether or not he's building a fort, or whether or not he wants to play hide and go seek or something like that in the house. So I think it's spending time with him. Another thing though, as an adult, what I really like to do is I like having friends over. And now that we're back in Brazil, and I love to have Brazilian barbecues. And so I know once it starts getting a little bit easier, a little bit safer, I know start having some Brazilian barbecues and having friends over. And my wife is originally from São Paulo, so having some of her family come over as well. And so maybe I guess it's hosting a barbecue and having friends over and, just talking and having a good time, a good laugh.
Okay, so now, unfortunately, we are at our last question, and Gabriela is going to ask you this, but yeah, I'm just really excited to hear your answer.
Yeah, this is a good question, actually. There wouldn't be this question if we weren't in this COVID-19 thing. But about everything that we learned with the coronavirus pandemic, what was the biggest lesson we learned about the coronavirus, on your opinion, Scott?
Wow. What has coronavirus taught us, right? Wow. That's a really good question. I think when I was in South Korea, we ended up closing down our school in February 19th. And so it was obviously a little bit sooner than what happened here in Brazil. And I remember being in those leadership meetings and talking with the other leaders of the school as we're developing our plan and our quick transition to go from, closing school to going online. And I remember thinking to myself too, and of course it was so early on, and it's starting, and there's more cases were coming up in the city that we were in. But I remember talking and saying, like, you know what? let's focus on something positive right now. And at that moment, at the very beginning, one of the positive things that I looked at we talked about was just how this was going to force us or accelerate the whole implementing technology at our school. It was an area that we had been talking about as a school, as a leadership team, of slowly and wanting to implement more technology in that school. And so this was an opportunity that I saw, and talking with the other leaders saying, this is our opportunity. This is a chance to really accelerate our tech usage in our school now. And it's something that I think was very positive. But I think in general, probably what's the best lesson? And I think we see ourselves, because it's not just Brazil, it's not just Canada, US, South Korea, China, it affected, all over the world. And so I think as human beings, I think what it teaches us is just maybe how resilient we are, right? And also too, maybe how important it is to be adaptable, how important it is to adapt to new situations. And so I think looking at that, I really hope that, as the situation gets better and we go back to our new normal, I really hope that we take some of these positive things, or some of these things that we were able to, as a society, as a culture, as human beings, be able to maybe take those good things and continue them, and maybe not just go back to how things were before, because I think we've been able to accomplish a lot of good things. So I think definitely it's taught us how to be resilient. It's taught us the need and the importance of being adaptable and adapting to new situations. And I think the last thing that I would probably say right now is it makes you really look at situations that are bigger than just yourself. And what I mean by that, I'm just trying to think of the words here, but what I mean by that is, as individuals, we need to start taking decisions that maybe they're not the most beneficial for us at this time, but we want to make this decision because it's better for the whole group, or it's better for a society, or it's better for us, as a race. And so I think that's something where, we have to look at it, and it really showed us where, yeah, maybe we don't want to follow some of these rules, or we don't feel it necessary, but because the bigger picture is for the betterment of everybody, for the whole entire group, it's better for us to make those decisions now. And so I think that's something, those are some lessons, I guess, that I just, thinking about now, I would like to hope that coronavirus and this whole situation has taught us, and that moving forward, we can take those good lessons that we've learned and put them in practice. And obviously, keep on learning. As lifelong learners, we want to learn from all the experiences, and just keep on moving and keep on producing and making it better than what it was before. So I hope that answers your question, Gabrielle. That was a really good question.
Okay, so I guess during this pandemic, everyone learned something different. And if I were here to tell you what I learned, we would be here forever, because I learned so many new things about myself, about my environment. And, I really just grew overall as a learner and, as a person. So now I'm going to hand it over to Priscilla, because she has one last question for us.
Thank you so much, Julia. Wow, I was super impressed with everybody on this team. You guys totally rocked it, and you guys knocked it out of the park. So congratulations, Tales, Gabriel, and Julia. You guys have a lot to be proud of. Well done. Wow, kudos, kudos, kudos. But before we leave, I have a question for you, Mr. Tales. I would like to know, what was your favorite part of this interview?
Talk with Scott.
Yay! Great answer, Tales. Good answer. Awesome. What about you, Gabriel? What was your favorite part?
When Julia asked, you can probably not play curling in your house, and then he surprised everyone that saying he could play curling in his house. Everything is possible by Mary Poppins.
You're right. You're absolutely right. Yep. As Mary Poppins said, right? And that was our theme for last year. Everything is possible, right? If you believe, you can achieve. And we know that from The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind, William says that everything you do with your heart, if you put your whole heart into something, anything is possible, right? We have that quote right close to the dome in the school. I was at the school today and I read that quote and it reminded me of so many things that we've all been doing during the pandemic, putting our hearts, like pouring our hearts and soul into things, right? And then we make everything possible. Julia, what about you? What was your favorite part?
Well, I really enjoyed the interview overall, but I guess my favorite part, which is really just a summary of the interview, was getting to know more about Scott and Tales and Gabriel, because I got to know them even better than I did before.
That's fantastic. I have really no words to thank all of you for the phenomenal job that you guys did today. So Tales, a special thank you goes out to you. Gabriel, a super special thank you goes out to you as well. And to you too, Julia. Thank you for being our host and for really launching the first Our.MINDS series, right? The first of many. So launching the series with us. And we can't wait to have you now every other week, right? So we're going to be seeing lots of you and you're going to be bringing all of the voices of all of the children in our school to these conversations. And they're going to be so super special. And Scott, I want to thank you immensely as well. Number one, for joining our team. What an honor it will be to work by your side. It already is every day, working virtually with you and sometimes face-to-face when we go to campus. So it's been a true honor. You have been such an amazing asset to our team, and we cannot wait to do even more together. So welcome to Brazil, to your favorite country. Welcome to Brazil, which has also your favorite food. Welcome to Brazil, which has your favorite students to teach. And we are so super proud that you have chosen our school to give continuity to the education of Thiago and to give continuity to your journey as an educator.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been an honor. It's been a privilege. And I think you didn't ask me what my favorite part about the interview was, but I would say it's the process of, meeting the students before and obviously during. And again, Tales, you know what it was? It was the connection that you and I both have the same favorite color, and that's blue. So that's something that's really special to me. So I love it. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. And we will see you guys in the next Our.MINDS series with Miss Julia Montenegro. So she will be our new host. And thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your week and let's have a fabulous weekend together or not. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.